Hello my lovelies, and thank you so much for joining me. Oh my god, you guys, I woke up with such a horrible headache this morning, and it's, what time is it now? It's like 20 past 10 in the morning, and I just woke up at 9 o'clock, so I have a horrible headache. But anyway, you guys, I can't believe that it's the end of May and I still have my heating on. I had to turn back my heating on because it's just freezing cold here in the UK. It's unbelievable. We are almost in June, it's meant to be summer, and I'm still having the heating on. It's just ridiculous. But anyway, talking about heating, and that reminds me that I have to give you the word for today. And so the word for today in Romanian is căldură. 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 Well done, guys, you just said heating. Yeah, see, it kind of fits with what I was talking about, my heating being constantly on. So you can actually use this word in not only one instance, but for example, căldură can mean heating, or you can also use căldură for heat. So yeah, but it's kind of similar. I mean, the wording is different, but it kind of means the same thing, really. Okay, so let's get on with today's video. I am going to be talking about what happened in Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial on Thursday, 26th of May, which was the last day for bringing witnesses in. Today, on Friday, we have the closing arguments, and then the jury receives their instructions and they will be deliberating, and according to the judge, they have up until Tuesday to reach a verdict. So, okay, I think that this video is going to be quite short because Thursday wasn't a day full of witnesses. They finished quite early before they started working out with the judge about the jury instructions and, you know, all those kind of procedures that need done before the jury, you know, is sent to work out and reach a verdict, right? I might be stumbling on my words today simply because I have this headache and also left shoulder pain, and the headache is coincidentally on the same side as my shoulder pain, and it's kind of really disturbing me because I feel like this headache is going to develop into a type of a migraine. I'm not sure. So I guess I'll see how my day progresses today. Yes. Okay. So very briefly and shortly, on Thursday, yesterday, we had on the stand Dr. Gilbert. Was the first one to take the stand yesterday, and he was a witness for Johnny Depp's side, and he is, I believe, the second surgeon who goes on the stand on Johnny Depp's side. And Dr. Gilbert, he is an orthopedic surgeon, and he specializes in surgery of the hand. Now, long story short, we know that they are trying to, again, I don't know what's happening with that light. Long story short, they are trying to rebut whatever the expert witnesses from Amber Heard's side were saying, right? So this is the second surgeon we are seeing from Johnny Depp who is saying that Johnny had a fracture on the tip of his finger, right? And this fracture was caused, and this fracture is considered to be a blunt force injury. And you can see, and according to him, well, his medical explanation, I'm not gonna go into it, but the way that I understood was that you can see on Johnny's x-ray, on the injury on his finger, that he had a sharp laceration with clean edges of the wound, which basically means that it must have been caused by an object, because it was a clean cut. So it's not really consistent with Amber Heard's story when she said that he must have caused the injury to his finger when he punched the phone on the wall, right? So Dr. Gilbert is saying that this kind of injury is not consistent at all with someone punching a wall or the phone on the wall, because typically you would see some other injuries on other parts of the hand if someone would be punching a wall or if someone would be punching a phone on the wall. Like Dr. Gilbert explained, you would see injuries here. More typically and more commonly they will be here because you make a fist when you punch the wall, and you will also see some injuries here, but not always. However, it's very rare that you get to see injuries here, And if he would be Johnny Depp punching the wall or punching the phone on the wall, and he would somehow keep his fist in a different position, you would at least have to see on the fingernail hematoma, which is the bruising of the nail because of the impact, right? Johnny didn't have this. Johnny's injury was with a clean laceration cut, which meant it was caused by a sharp object and it was in an angle, right? So basically this is more or less the way that Dr. Gilbert was explaining it. So he's also saying that the injury came from a high velocity object, which is extremely consistent with Johnny's story of how the injury happened. High velocity, an object thrown with, high force, isn't it? High velocity. Dr. Gilbert reviewed the findings from Dr. Moore, which was the expert witness on Amber Heard's side, and he said that he disagreed with some parts, and he also said that even though he does agree with some parts that this is it seems to be like a crush injury, this type of injury, you wouldn't be able to get it if, for example, you would catch your finger in an accordion door, or you would punch a wall. And even when Dr. Moore, if you remember, said that there should be glass shards seen on the x-ray in the finger, or some glass cuts around the finger on the hand, Dr. Gilbert said that he in fact performed surgeries on the hand, more than 1,000 surgeries, and out of those surgeries, a lot of the surgeries were from injuries from glass, and in most of his surgeries he didn't find glass shards in the finger or cuts from glass on the hand, simply because it really depends on the type of glass that we are talking about. The way he compared was, for example, if you have a wine glass, then of course you will be able to find shards because the type of glass is much thinner. However, when you have a bottle such as a vodka bottle, then the glass is thicker, so it will crack on impact, but it won't leave glass shards. So basically this is the story. Long story short, I'm gonna add some clips as well so you can hear exactly from him, how he explains it. And when I've heard him on the stand, his explanation made the most sense to me in comparison to how Dr. Moore was explaining this. So yeah, Dr. Gilbert, he also took into consideration the material that Johnny Depp had his hand on, which was the top of the bar, which was a marble top, and the position of Johnny's hand and the way that his fingers were, at the edge of the bar. And Dr. Gilbert said that it is consistent with his story, with Johnny Depp's story, and and that type of injury can clearly happen from the way that Johnny described it. In terms of the marble top, his hand resting on the top, and then you have the vodka bottle being thrown at him. The vodka bottle exploded or cracked or whatever, it broke, and of course the vodka bottle hit Johnny's hand, and because Johnny's hand was on the marble top, which was a hard surface, it kind of had this impact of a crush injury from the bottle being thrown at high velocity, being heavy, and his hand resting on a hard surface. So that would be the impact that we are seeing in his injury.
Good morning, Dr. Gilbert.
Good morning.
Would you please state your name for the record?
Richard Stephen Gilbert.
And what is your occupation?
I am an orthopedic surgeon, and I have a subspecialty training in surgery of the hand and upper extremity.
Dr. Gilbert, where do you work currently?
I currently work in New York and Long Island at Northwell Health.
And you mentioned you have a specialty. Can you tell us a little bit more about what your specialty is?
So after medical school, I trained in orthopedic surgery, and I did an orthopedic surgery residency. And for a year thereafter, I did a hand and upper extremity surgery resident fellowship. And so my practice for the past 22 years has been limited to surgery of the hand, wrist, and elbow.
And I think you may have gotten ahead of me there, but how long have you been practicing?
22 years.
Okay. What percentage of your practice over the past 22 years has involved surgery?
Approximately 1/3 of my practice.
Okay. And other than that 1/3 that involves surgery, what does the rest of your practice entail?
The The rest of my practice entails some academic work, but mostly seeing patients in the office, seeing them either pre or post-operatively. A large portion of hand surgeons treat patients non-operatively.
In terms of the surgeries that you do, can you describe for us the types of surgeries that you will perform?
So again, I limit my practice to hand, wrist, and elbow. I would say approximately 75% or so of my practice is limited to the hand itself. And this really varies from anything from conditions like carpal tunnel syndrome to tendinitis to injuries such as amputations, fractures, sharp lacerations, etc.
Over the course of your 22 years of practice, how many surgeries would you estimate you've performed?
I perform about 300 to 400 surgeries a year, so a rough estimate would be approximately 10,000, maybe a little less.
Where are you currently licensed?
In New York.
And how long have you been licensed in New York?
I have been licensed in New York since 1994, so that would be 28 years.
And do you have any certifications?
Yes.
And can you tell us about those?
I am board certified by the American Board of Orthopedic Surgery, and I have a certificate of added qualifications in surgery of the hand from the American Society for Surgery of the Hand.
When did you receive your board certification?
2002.
And can you describe for us what current positions you hold?
I am currently an assistant professor of orthopedic surgery at Northwell Health, and I'm also the president-elect of the New York Society for Surgery of the Hand.
In what professional organizations are you a member?
I'm a member of multiple orthopedic organizations, including the American Board of Orthopedic Surgery, the American Association of Orthopedic Surgery, and the American Society for Surgery of the Hand, as well as the New York Society for Surgery of the Hand.
Have you published any articles in your field?
Yes, I have.
Have you testified as an expert before?
Yes, I have.
Can you ballpark for us how many times?
Certainly less than 10 over the past 22 years.
Your Honor, at this time we'd like to offer Dr. Gilbert as an expert in the field of orthopedic surgery, specializing in the hand.
All right, any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
So moved.
So Dr. Gilbert, what work were you asked to do in connection with this case?
So I was asked to review medical records, radiographs, pictures, as well as testimonies and depositions related to Mr. Depp's finger injury.
Okay. And to your understanding, what is Mr. Depp's explanation of how his finger was injured?
He describes that he was in Australia and his right hand was over the side of a bar when a vodka bottle was thrown at his hand, injuring his right middle finger. And he describes that the vodka bottle exploded.
Are you aware of other explanations for that injury?
There have been multiple other explanations, but I think the one that was brought out was by Ms. Hurd, who believed that Mr. Depp was holding a landline and out of anger was punching it against the wall, and this resulted in his right middle finger injury.
Okay. Based on your review of the medical records and other documents in connection with Mr. Depp's finger injury, how would you describe the nature of the injury to Mr. Depp's finger?
Well, the nature of the injury was he had what we describe as a comminuted fracture of the distal phalanx, meaning there was a fracture of the tip of the finger, and comminuted meaning that there were multiple pieces. So this is some type of blunt force with a high mechanism of injury. He also sustained loss of the tissue along what's called the ulnar side of the finger towards the little finger. And this appeared, based upon my review of the pictures, to be some type of sharp laceration because it represented a clean edges of the wound.
Can we take a look at Plaintiff's Exhibit 60 and pull up to go to page 3? And Dr. Gilbert, are you familiar with this document?
Yes.
And what is it?
So these are 2 radiographs, x-rays of Mr. Depp's finger, his middle finger.
Okay. Sorry, just to stop you, but Your Honor, may we publish this to the jury as a demonstrative?
Any objection?
No objection.
All right, we'll identify it as 60, page 3, and publish to the jury.
And Dr. Gilbert, sorry to cut you off there.
Okay.
Can you just tell the jury what we're looking at here in this X-ray?
2 x-rays of Mr. Depp's right middle finger after the injury, and towards the tip of the finger there's a fracture, again what I described as a comminuted fracture, meaning there are multiple pieces at the tip. There's also a transverse component to the fracture closer to the joint.
In your view, what types of mechanisms can cause this sort of injury?
So this is a mechanism of injury that has high velocity or force, generally a crush type injury. A simple fall would not result in a comminuted fracture such as is seen in these x-rays.
And we're using the term comminuted fracture. Can we just define that quickly for us?
So again, comminuted, and it's not particular to a finger, is a medical term for a fracture that has multiple fragments.
In your opinion, could this injury have been sustained in the manner Mr. Depp described?
I do believe so.
And how might that work? How might a thrown vodka bottle produce an injury like this?
So a vodka bottle, which is a hard object, would have crushed the tip of the finger, resulting in the comminuted fracture. And in addition, as the vodka bottle broke, the glass would have lacerated the finger, resulting in the soft tissue loss that was also seen with this injury.
What's your assessment of the description of the cause of the injury offered by Ms. Heard?
I think that's highly unlikely.
And why is that?
Because in general, when an injury is caused by punching against a wall or a hard object, it is extremely rare to see an injury to the tips of the fingers, which is seen with Mr. Depp's injury. Generally, you're holding something with a fist, and that in general leads to injuries most commonly of the knuckles here, or fractures of the metacarpals. We call these boxer fractures. Second most common after those would be injuries to these, but as you can see, if you're holding something and hitting against something, it is very unlikely that the tips of the fingers will be injured. In addition, just taking into account the radiographs and the pictures of the injury, I would not believe that solely a blunt force against a wall would result in the soft tissue loss.
What other injuries, if any, would you expect to see on Mr. Depp's hand if the injury had occurred as Ms. Heard described?
So if that were the cause of the injury, that would be a dorsally directed, so this is the dorsal in the back of the hand as opposed to the palmar side. So if you're punching against something, you would certainly expect an injury to the nail bed, and those are always seen in those type of injuries. If there is an injury to the tip of the finger, which again I said is rare, so you would see either a loss of the nail or blood underneath the nail called a subungual hematoma.
In your review of the medical records, did you see any sign of anything like that?
None whatsoever.
In your view, is the injury... Can you explain to us exactly why you think the injury is consistent with Mr. Depp's description?
Well, again, his hand, he describes his hand being held over a marble bar, which is a firm something firm, unyielding, and the bottle hit against the finger. So basically the finger was crushed, resulting in, again, what I described as a comminuted fracture. And as Mr. Depp described, the bottle exploded. So it's certainly reasonable that the glass that exploded as well.
As far as I remember, sorry, I was really tired yesterday when I was watching this trial, having had only about 4 hours of sleep the previous night. So I think that this was the last witness on Johnny Depp's side, and after that Johnny Depp rested his case. Now we got into rebuttal evidence, and Amber Heard's side called another witness called Julian Eckert, and he is a computer discovery investigator. So he was brought in as an expert witness for a rebuttal on Neumeister expert witness. Oh my god, see, I can't focus because of this headache. Okay, let's start again. So Amber Heard's side brought in for rebuttal evidence Julian Eckert, who is a computer discovery investigator, and he was brought in as an expert witness as a rebuttal for Neumeister, the other expert witness on Johnny Depp's side. You remember that we talked in my previous video that Neumeister said all the photos that he analyzed of Amber Heard, the one that she submitted for evidence, they were modified, they were edited, right? So now this expert, Julian Eckert, he's trying to kind of say no, they were not modified and these kind of things. And according to him, the photos were not edited. According to him, even though it shows in some data in some of the photos that there was an editing app used, this expert witness emphasized the fact that this editing app comes from iPhone as part of their, as part of their software, and this app is used for sorting and editing photos. So he didn't see any evidence to suggest that Amber Heard edited the photos. So that was basically, long story short, of his explanations.
Typically with a forensic image, you're also going to get log files. Log files are files that help you validate the forensic image and verify that it was a forensically sound data collection.
And how do log files enable you to do that?
Log files list information within the files. Sometimes they're even embedded within the images themselves, but they provide verification information that allows you to authenticate the image and the data on the image.
What is the purpose of creating a forensic image of devices or data?
In order to extract and analyze data forensically for the courts, you need to create a forensic image of the data first and gather the data from the forensic image.
And what, if any, specific types of data are collected in that image and extraction?
It's going to be any type of data that comes from the image, whether you're extracting photographs or documents or spreadsheets or anything of that nature.
Do you recall Mr. Neumeister mentioning the term hashing yesterday?
I do.
What is that?
Hashing is essentially a digital fingerprint of a file. It's an evaluation of the binary ones and zeros, or how the file is stored on a hard drive, and it examines the ones and zeros in a manner that gives every file a digital fingerprint, essentially, and identifies the uniqueness of the file.
And what, if any, applicability does hashing have to the visual appearance of data?
Hashing has nothing to do with the visual appearance. For example, if I had a Word document that I printed and then saved, therefore I haven't visually changed the Word document, the metadata of that Word document indicating that I printed it would be different, and therefore that Word document would not hash to the version that I used before printing.
Can you give any examples of digital photographs that visually appear the same, not hashing?
I believe Mr. Neumeister included 3 of those in his demonstratives yesterday, 3 side-by-side photographs that looked visually the same but did not hash. It made sense that they wouldn't hash. Each of them had different file sizes. And a file size can change for a photograph depending on what you do with the photograph. So for example, maybe you want to take that photograph and email it to somebody, and on your phone, you choose to use a small, medium, or large or different size of the photograph when you email. When you send that email with that photograph, you've changed the hash value because you've changed the ones and zeros because you've changed the size of the photograph.
And what, if anything, do you recall from Mr. Neumeister's testimony regarding photos 3?
Mr. Neumeister was concerned about a particular metadata field, EXIF metadata, which there's two types of metadata for files. There's the embedded metadata, which is what we're discussing here, the EXIF metadata, and external metadata. And Mr. Neumeister was concerned with embedded metadata within the file that indicated that the software version that the file last ran through was Photos.
What is Photos 3.0?
Photos is actually the software application that's built into the Apple Macintosh operating system for laptops. This is the application that launches by default when you're on an Apple computer and use Photos.
What are the capabilities of Photos 3.0?
There's multiple capabilities for it. You can, for example, create an album with it and put multiple photos within an album. You can organize or sort your photos by date and time taken or place. You can also use that to edit photos.
And of course that it kind of turned into a bit of he said this, he said that, kind of fighting against each other and this kind of things. So for Amber Heard's side, Dr. Hughes was brought back on the stand for a rebuttal of what Dr. Curry said yesterday on the stand. So basically, I don't know you guys, but it was it was getting ridiculous for me. That's how I felt. To the point where Dr. Curry is saying one thing, Dr. Hughes is disagreeing and she's saying a different thing, and all these kind of things. So I don't even think that it makes sense to go into so much detail into what Dr. Hughes said, because basically she said that she disagrees with what Dr. Curry said, and she said that she followed all the procedures needed, and she said that she used all the checklists that were needed, and so on and so forth. So basically, of course, that if you are an expert witness on the stand and you are under oath as well, and you are paid by a side, then you are not going to say I agree with what the other side is saying, right? Long story short, if I am to be brutally honest here. But cross-examination, I think that Johnny Depp's side killed it in the cross-examination of Dr. Hughes, because from my point of view, it didn't really change my opinion, and it didn't change my agreement with what Dr. Curry said. I'm hoping that more people see what I am seeing. I'm hoping that the jury will see what I am seeing now. I don't know. Is it because I'm biased? Is it because that's how it was? I have no idea, you guys. I honestly, at this point, I don't know, because yesterday it was a very confusing day for me in the trial, simply because of all the going back and forth, and, you know, so on.
The last time you were here, I believed that you testified that you had diagnosed Ms. Heard with PTSD before you gave the gold standard CAPS-5 test.
That's correct.
Right. And that diagnosis is actually reflected in the first of the disclosures you put forward in this case.
I believe the first disclosure was February 2021, and at that point I had done 11 psychological tests. That's correct.
Right. And your disclosure reads, Ms. Heard's responses on the PCL-5 support a DSM-5 diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder with an etiology of intimate partner violence she experienced by a former partner. Remember writing that?
That's correct.
Okay. You just testified that you need to read the manual, right?
Yes.
Okay. Can we put up 1311 as a demonstrative? Dr. Hughes, do you recognize what the National Center for PTSD is?
What it is?
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
And they publish the PTSD checklist for DSM-5.
That's correct.
That what we've been calling the PCL-5.
Correct.
All right. And do you, are you familiar with the document that's on your screen?
Yes.
All right. What is it?
It's the instruction manual to how to administer the PCL-5.
Okay. I'd like to move for the admission of 1312.
Any objection to 1312 coming into evidence? All right, 1312 in evidence.
All right. Can we go to the second page? The PCL-5 should not be used as a standalone diagnostic tool. When considering a diagnosis, the clinician will still need to use clinical interviewing skills and a recommended structured interview, e.g., the CAPS-5, to determine a diagnosis, correct? That's what the manual says.
Right, and this manual
Okay.
also says that this is a screening instrument, so when you do the clinical interviewing, you absolutely can determine diagnosis
So
after
the answer is
somebody
yes. The manual says you
still
the
need to use
PCL-5
clinical interviewing skills, which I used.
Well, let me finish my question. The PCL-5 should not be used as a standalone diagnostic tool, and they recommend using the CAPS-5 to determine a diagnosis, correct?
It does say that, yes.
Yeah, and you made your diagnosis before you did the CAPS-5.
I made my diagnosis doing clinical interviewing and 11 other psychological tests that supported diagnosis of PTSD and symptomatology consistent with PTSD.
Okay. You said that we should read the manual. Would you also agree with me that we need to read the directions on these tests?
Sure.
Okay. Doctor, do you recognize the demonstrative that's in front of you?
Yes, but I didn't put the red lines on that.
No, I did.
Yes, I know.
Okay. So this, what do you recognize this as?
I recognize that we previously discussed this, and I told you that I oriented Ms. Hurd to a different time frame because she was already out of the relationship.
Okay, maybe we should back it up a little. This is the CTS-2 that you administered as part of this battery of tests that you indicate you did in relationship to your diagnosis.
Right, this is the conflict tactic scale too.
All right. And you'll agree with me that this test specifically asks, in front of every single question, how often did this happen in the past year?
Correct, and I
Right.
oriented
And
the
you
individual
know-
to not
Okay,
limit herself
it's
to the
correct.
last year to get an accurate assessment of the violence and abuse that she experienced in the relationship.
Objection, Your Honor, move to strike.
All right. I'll move to strike the last part of the answer. Strike the last part of the answer. Thank you. Next question.
Yeah. And you know that at the time that you gave this test to Ms. Hurd, she had been away from Mr. Depp for far longer than a year, correct?
Which is why I oriented her to a different
Yes or no,
time
ma'am?
frame in answering the questions.
Doctor, yes or no?
So, of course,
Okay, you knew she was gone for more than a year.
of course.
All right. Let's look at another one of these. You talked about the danger. I'm sorry. You talked about the danger assessment test.
That's correct.
All right.
What number is this? 13, plaintiff's 1310.
Thank you.
Any objection to 1310 as a demonstrative? Okay. You publish to the jury.
Dr. Hughes, this is a blank form, but this is the danger assessment test that you also gave to Ms. Hurd, correct?
I didn't give it to her. I filled it out based on the data that was provided to me.
Oh, so you asked her the questions and then you filled it in.
It was somewhat collaborative.
Okay. Can we blow up the second full paragraph? It says, using the calendar, please mark the approximate dates during the past year when you were abused by your partner or ex-partner. You didn't use any calendar, did you?
I did not use a calendar because she was already out of the relationship. As I said, these are static risk factors, so they don't change. So I
But these
orient her to the
exams-
time of the relationship.
Ma'am, it's fair to say that this examination that you gave specifically indicates that you were supposed to look over the past year. And
That's
not the language?
one administration. People use this instrument for if you're in an acute situation in a relationship, trying to get a better assessment of the current behaviors. We can use it retrospectively, like I just stated, and in homicides and looking back about what are the serious risk factors that were in this relationship.
I didn't ask you about anything other than, don't the instructions limit this test to the previous year?
You can give this test not only on the previous year.
Nope, asking you about the instructions.
But I'm telling you how the test is administered in clinical practice and in forensic practice.
And opposing counsel can come up and ask questions about it. I'm asking you about the instructions. And the instructions say, look over the past year. And,
Yeah, on this, yes, that it says that.
and you had actual knowledge when you gave the test that Mr. Depp was gone way more than a year before this test.
That is correct.
Right. All right. Let's look at more instructions. Can we look at 1247, which is already in evidence? Dr. Hughes, you recognize this one too, right?
Yes,
All right. This is the, what everybody calls the CAPS 5.
correct.
All right. Can we go to the first page? Let's blow up the instructions. Standard administration and scoring of the CAPS 5 are essential for producing reliable and valid scores and diagnostic decisions. Correct?
Correct.
And you know you have to do this in a standardized way because it is the first instruction, correct?
Correct.
Can we go to the next page? One more. Oh, wait. That's good. This is a page on scoring, and we talked about this last time.
Yes.
You score these tests by frequency and intensity.
Correct.
And you'll remember that in every single instance that you were asked to fill in the blank about frequency, you failed to do so, correct?
That's not correct.
Oh, you filled in any blank on this form with respect to frequency?
I filled in the frequency on the side of the caps where I am actually scoring the caps.
No, I asked
Where
you
it's
whether
relevant.
you filled in a single blank on this form with respect to frequency. Is the answer to that yes or no?
I don't know what you mean, a single blank.
All right, let's keep going. All right, we'll stay at this page for a second. This is the very first box you're asked to fill in as to, I think, a fairly fundamental question, right? What happened?
We talked about this before, Mr. Dennison. I had 88 pages of notes of what happened. It would have been redundant to put it there.
You know that you are obligated to produce this test in a way that other people can meaningfully review them. Yes?
The people in this case who are meaningfully reviewing them have my 88 pages of notes.
Right. But you chose to put absolutely nothing in the box, the standardized box, that said what happened.
You don't have to put it in the box if you have it somewhere else. It's not
Because
a,
this
if
is
it's
not a
re-
standardized test?
Well, if it's not a research instrument that is used for research, if you're using it for a clinical diagnostic purpose, no, you don't. If you have that data elsewhere.
Okay. Let's go another page or so. Let's go another one. All right. Let's look at item 4B4. And I asked you, you filled in the blank about frequency. And there's a blank in many of these items that asks number of times. You didn't fill a single one of them in, did you?
Right, because I filled them on the right side of the instrument where I am scoring it.
And that is the way that you believe that you followed the instructions of a standardized test.
Yes, correct.
No further questions.
So, yeah, I did say that Johnny Depp rested their case, but before they rested their case, they brought in another witness who was Miss Beverly Leonard. So Miss Beverly Leonard, she used to work as an officer at Seattle Tacoma Airport. She contacted Johnny Depp's side just one day before she actually did a testimony via video. She said that she worked at the airport at the time when Amber Heard was in a relationship with Tassia Van Ree. I remember the name now. You see, I got there in the end. So with Tassia Van Ree, so they were at the baggage claim area, Tassia Van Ree and Amber Heard, and Miss Beverly Leonard, she actually witnessed the whole argument, and she witnessed Amber Heard being aggressive towards Tassia Van Ree. And she even saw when Amber Heard did something to Tassia, and then she kind of grabbed hold of her necklace and she ripped the necklace out of her neck, and then Beverly, she actually saw Amber holding Tassia's necklace, and she saw Amber being aggressive towards Tassia Van Ree. She went there, she was trying to calm down the situation, and she was asking if everything is okay, if anybody needs help. She got some other colleagues involved in the dispute as well, and Amber Heard was saying that no, they are fine. However, Miss Beverly Leonard, she actually remembers that Amber, she had quite a blurry vision and she seemed to be intoxicated. And she was very dismissive of what Miss Leonard was telling them, right? So I'm guessing Johnny Depp brought in this witness because of the allegations that were made against Amber Heard and the charges that were brought against her for DV against Tassia Van Ree. And again, cross-examination, Amber Heard's side, just like we've heard yesterday from the ex-employee of TMZ, and also the owner in Hackersville was it? Yeah, the caravan park. Elaine was trying to point out to these witnesses that they came in there to testify for their 15 minutes of fame. Yeah, she kept on going with that, which in my opinion was not only ridiculous, but it was quite low, if I'm honest with you. Now, of course, that Miss Leonard said that she didn't want to be on camera, she didn't want to be on TV, she wasn't looking for fame. The same thing was said about Knight, the owner of the caravan park. The same thing was said about the ex-employee of TMZ during cross-examination, trying to point out that they are looking for their fame because of this trial being televised and broadcasted all over the world. From the way I saw it, it didn't really affect what the witnesses were saying, and from the way I saw it, it didn't really affect their credibility. So again, they are kind of grasping at straws here.
Are you familiar with the defendant in this matter, Amber Heard?
Yes, I am.
And how are you familiar with her?
I met her in 2009 at SeaTac International Airport.
Why were you at the airport?
I worked there.
What happened when you met Ms. Heard in 2009?
I was in the baggage claim area, and I observed her with a traveling companion, and they got into an altercation where Ms. Heard had grabbed her traveling companion and pulled something from her neck. At that point, I got up and went over to try to break up what appeared to be a fight. And I summoned a colleague to help me, and I stepped in between them and separated them, stopping any further injuries or escalation.
How would you describe the interaction between Ms. Heard and her traveling companion?
Ms. Heard was aggressive towards her traveling companion, and she had reached up and grabbed her arm and pulled a necklace off of her, and then I observed her having it in her hand. She seemed to be not very steady on her feet. Her eyes were blurry and watery, and I could smell alcohol.
What was Ms. Heard's traveling companion's reaction to being assaulted by Ms. Heard?
Objection, relevance?
sustain the objection.
On relevance?
Yes.
Okay. What did Ms. Heard's traveling companion do?
She raised her hands in what appeared to be a defensive manner, but other than that, she was pretty stoic and didn't really respond much. Her stature was 2 or 3 inches taller than Ms. Heard, so she didn't really need to have to defend herself.
How would you describe Ms. Heard's demeanor when you stepped in between Ms. Heard and her traveling companion?
She was somewhat dismissive. She just said, we're just having an argument. We're fine. Because I was asking if they were okay. Are you okay? Is there anything wrong? What's going on? And
Objection, hearsay. Just objection, hearsay to what she's saying.
All right. I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
What, if any, injuries did you observe on Ms. Heard's traveling companion?
She had abrasion on the side of her neck where the necklace was, like a rope burn from the chain as it was removed.
And that was it from Johnny Depp's side with the witnesses. So really, they did rest the case after this witness. Lastly, guys, Amber Heard took the stand yet again in a last attempt to convince the jury and the world that she was a victim of DV at the hands of Johnny Depp. She was on the stand at the beginning. Whilst she was on the stand, she seemed very genuine. In the sense that at the beginning, while she was on the stand, Rottenborn asked her how is she feeling from all of this happening, from the Waldman statements, from the public perception of her and these kind of things, and she said that she feels very sad, she's harassed all the time, she receives death threats, her family receives death threats, people don't want to associate with her because of everything that is being said online about her. Again, I'm emphasizing the fact that she's checking everything and they shouldn't be doing that, but maybe because we are in a world of the internet being available and accessible just about everywhere, you kind of can't really, separate yourself from everything that it's posted out there online without actually seeing some of it. Let's just say that I'm gonna argue for her on that bit. So I felt that she was genuine when she described the way that she felt, and the only reason why she was genuine was because it is true that she feels this way, because I think by this point, without taking any sides here, anybody would feel this way when you are broadcasted all over the world and all your dirty laundry gets out in the public and all the stories that you make, and they are obvious lies and obvious stories made up. Of course you would feel that way. Now, the one thing that I thought was horrendous for her to say on the stand, she involved her child, her daughter, into it. And she said that it was very, very astonishing to me what she said. She said that she received, not only that she received death threats and threats to her life, but she said that people were talking about them wanting to put her daughter in the microwave. Now, when I heard to put her child in the microwave, instantly something clicked here, because I remember precisely having read about a case quite some time ago about a baby being put in the microwave and the mother killing the baby. And before I actually did the video today, before getting started with this, I researched because I wanted to make sure that there is a case, and I wanted to make sure I'm not just imagining things. So in reality, there is actually a case. It happened in the US where the mom, I think that her baby was, it was a baby girl. Her baby girl, I think that she was either 15 days old or 28 days old, and there was an argument between her and her partner saying that the baby girl is not his child, and so the mom took the baby girl, the mom put the baby girl in the microwave, switched the microwave on for I think it was around 1 or 2 minutes at 103 degrees temperature, and then that's it. And then they took the baby to the hospital and the baby was pronounced dead, sadly, because of there were no burns on the outside of the body. However, there were burns on the inside. So she was basically cooking on the inside. And it's a very sad case. It's actually a heartbreaking case, because how can you even think as a mother, as a parent, as a human being, to do this to a baby girl, to do this to a baby? What wrong could that baby have done to you to think that they deserve such a death, right? And for Amber Heard to get inspired, because I think, honestly, I think that she got inspired by this case. For her to use this is the lowest of the low, if I'm honest with you. Is the lowest, and it just goes to show the lengths that she's willing to go to get what she wants. And it was just disgusting, in my opinion, to use that horrendous death of a baby to try and benefit you in some way, or to make the jury see you in a different light, is just beyond anything that I have ever heard before. Seriously, guys. So that kind of said it all for me. So yeah, she went. So I'm gonna carry on with that, because I don't want to get into too much details, because I'm just going to bring up my blood pressure with these things, with these ridiculous things that she's saying.
Thank you, ma'am. Just a reminder, you're still under oath, okay?
Of course, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, your question?
Amber, just to orient you and the jury, at this time, we are in the rebuttal to your counterclaim against Mr. Depp. So I'm going to confine my questions to that, okay?
All right.
How have you suffered publicly as a result of the Depp-Waldman statements?
Objection, speculation.
Overruled.
I am harassed, humiliated, threatened every single day. Even just walking into this courtroom, sitting here in front of the world, having the worst parts of my life, things that I've lived through, used to humiliate me. People want to kill me, and they tell me so every day. People want to put my baby in the microwave, and they tell me that. Johnny threatened, promised me that if I ever left him, he'd make me think of him every single day that I lived.
Objection, Your Honor, non-responsive.
All right, I'll sustain the objection as to that, if you want to ask the question.
Amber, how did Mr. Depp's statements and threats to you that you were discussing, how do those continue to manifest themselves today?
In the harassment and the humiliation, the campaign against me that's echoed every single day on social media and now in front of cameras in this room. Every single day I have to relive the trauma. My hands shake. I wake up screaming. I have to live with the trauma and the damage done to me. My friends have to live with a set of unspoken rules about how to not scare me.
Objection, hearsay.
Yes, sir.
Unspoken rules.
Overruled. Go ahead.
About how to not touch me, not to surprise me. My intimate partners have rules about how they can deal with me, how they can touch me. I have rules for doctors and medical professionals I see, gynecologists I see. I live my life with these sets of rules that I have to follow, my friends have to follow, for me not to have a panic attack or a triggering event where I relive the trauma. Even if I'm training to do my movie, for instance, if I'm training for Aquaman, a combat scene and a trigger happens, I have a meltdown and have to deal with that. The crew I work with have to deal with that because of the damage I walk around with every single day from what I've lived through.
Ms. Heard, you just testified that this case has been very hard for you. So let's talk about that and why.
All right.
Your lies have been exposed to the world multiple times, right?
I haven't lied about anything I've been here to say.
You sat here and told this jury that the events in Hicksville started with Mr. Depp getting really upset about a woman leaning on you. Is that correct?
Yes, that's effectively what happened, yeah.
You testify that he actually grabbed that woman's wrist and twisted it, right?
And told her that he could effectively break her wrist by saying he knew how many pounds of pressure, or asking her how many pounds of pressure it took to break a human wrist.
But your own witness, your former best friend, Rocky Pennington, she didn't corroborate that, did she?
I'm not quite sure what part of that night she saw. There were a lot of people there.
She didn't testify that Mr. Depp grabbed anyone's wrist in Hicksville.
Again, I don't know what Rocky saw. There were a lot of people there that night.
You testified that once you brought Mr. Depp back to your trailer, he trashed it, correct?
That is correct.
And the manager of the Hicksville trailer park was furious that Johnny had wrecked the whole thing. Do you remember that testimony?
That's correct.
Well, we heard from that manager of the Hicksville trailer park, Morgan Knight, on Monday, didn't we?
I'm not quite sure who that guy was or if he had any involvement in this. I know a lot of people have come out of the woodwork to be involved.
So you're accusing Mr. Knight of testifying and committing perjury?
I'm not accusing anyone. I just don't recognize that man.
You heard Mr. Knight testify that it was actually you who was upset with Mr. Depp spending time away from him. Isn't that correct?
How would he know? He wasn't there.
You heard Mr. Knight testify that it was actually you who was yelling at Mr. Depp.
Again, I've heard a lot of people say a lot of things to be involved in the Johnny Depp show, but he wasn't there. He doesn't know. And he certainly doesn't know what happened behind closed doors, like most people.
So you're calling Mr. Knight a liar?
I am saying he wasn't there, and what he testified to doesn't match what I know happened. But I don't fault him. He wasn't there, so how would he know?
He testified he was there, Ms. Heard. Did you hear that?
That's his testimony, yes.
So you're calling him a liar?
I'm just saying he wasn't there.
You heard Mr. Knight testify that the trailer wasn't trashed, and that's why you're calling him a liar.
He testified that a light fixture was broken, similar to the way that
yes,
Johnny's
other than a light
employees
fixture. That
testified
was the
to
only
my
thing that was
closet
broken,
being rearranged
right?
and things
Ms.
like
Heard,
that.
The only thing that was broken in the trailer, according to Mr. Knight, was a light fixture. Yes or no?
I realized that he summed it up by saying a light fixture was broken, just the way his security guard summed up him trashing my closet as being rearranged.
Your Honor, I'm going to move to strike everything after he summed it up, that it was a light fixture, as non-responsive.
She answered the question, Your Honor.
Overruled.
In the security guard testimony, Your Honor?
I'll allow it. Go ahead.
Mr. Knight also testified that he charged Mr. Depp only $62 for the damaged light fixture. You heard that, correct?
I did.
In Hicksville, you were the only one that was jealous that Mr. Depp was spending time from other people. Isn't that correct, Ms. Heard?
That isn't correct.
In Hicksville, you were the one who was upset that Mr. Depp wasn't giving you enough attention.
Incorrect again.
Ms. Heard, you told this jury that you had no idea the press was going to be at the courthouse when you got your TRO on May 27th, 2016. Do you remember that testimony?
I said I did not have anything to do with it. Yes.
No. My question again. You told this jury that you had no idea that the press was going to be outside after you got the ex-party TRO on May 27th, 2016. Do you remember that testimony?
I apologize. I must have misunderstood Ms. Vasquez. I actually had no idea whether they were going to be there or not. When I walked into the courtroom that day, it was completely quiet, still, empty. Even though I had given Johnny's team notice that I was filing the TRO,
Your Honor, this is not
we had no reason to believe the press knew.
And Your Honor, I would also ask that you instruct the witness to please stop talking once I lodge an objection.
Your Honor, she's trying to answer the question as best she can, and Ms. Vasquez is misrepresenting to her what she testified to.
Well, I'll strike the last part as non-responsive. Just if you could just answer the questions asked. Okay? Thank you, Ms. Heard.
In fact, you testified that you were, quote, shocked when you saw press when you were leaving the courthouse. Yes?
Yes.
You weren't shocked at all, though, were you?
Incorrect. It was
You knew the
horrifying.
press would be at the courthouse, right, Ms. Heard?
No.
Well, you did bring your publicist to the courthouse with you on May 27th, 2016, didn't you?
I sure did. I'm a public figure. I brought my publicist in case it blew up. In case. And
You actually
I'm glad
had
I did.
alerted TMZ that you would be filing a TRO against Mr. Depp that very day,
No, I did
didn't
not.
you?
No, I did
The
not.
one day you didn't bother to wear makeup to cover up the mark on your face.
I did not call TMZ or any other news source or paparazzi source. No one.
Well,
I
we
never
heard
did that.
testimony from former TMZ employee Morgan Tremaine yesterday, correct?
Did I hear his testimony?
Yes.
Yes, I was here.
Yes. And you heard Mr. Tremaine's testimony that he knew to dispatch the paparazzi to the courthouse on May 27th, right?
I heard him say that he knew that, yes.
Yeah, and that he dispatched paparazzi to the courthouse to capture a picture of an alleged bruise on the right side of your face. Do you remember him saying that?
I remember him saying that.
That information must have come from your team, right, Ms. Heard?
Absolutely not. Why would I want that? What actual survivor of domestic violence wants that?
Now, the video of Mr. Depp beating up some kitchen cabinets, you admit that you took that video, correct?
Yes, I did.
Right. And you acknowledge that the video was released online the day before you were deposed in connection with your divorce from Mr. Depp in August of 2016, right?
I believe it was, yes.
But you testified that you had absolutely nothing to do with the video's release, right?
Absolutely not.
And you testified that you learned about it when you landed after flying into LA. Do you remember that testimony?
Upon touchdown is when I was alerted to the video's
You
existence
heard Mr.
online.
Tremaine testify that about this video as well yesterday, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
And you heard Mr. Tremaine testify that TMZ received the cabinet video the same day you landed at LAX, yes?
I don't know if I don't know if that's what his testimony was. I'm sorry.
You heard Mr. Tremaine testify that the cabinet video was posted 15 minutes after TMZ received it, yes?
That's what I heard him say.
And that this could only have been possible if the video was received directly from the source, yes?
I heard him say that. I don't know if that's true or if that's possible because
And
it
you
didn't come
heard
from me. I was
Mr.
flying.
Tremaine
So
testify.
I know that's incorrect is what I mean to say.
Another liar on the stand?
I just know that that's incorrect.
Right. And you heard Mr. Tremaine testify that TMZ owns the copyright to the cabinet video, right?
That's news to me.
The cabinet video you filmed of your then husband, yes?
The copyright ownership of that is news to me. I learned that yesterday.
It's the cabinet video that you captured of your then husband, yes?
That is correct. I did capture that video, and
The
yes,
cabinet
that was
video-
my husband.
The same cabinet video that was released the night before you were deposed in your divorce, yes?
That's correct.
You must have also heard Mr. Tremaine testify that the version of the cabinet video that TMZ received was incomplete compared to the video the jury saw in this trial. Did you hear that?
The video that that you have seen is complete.
Right. But the one TMZ got the day before your deposition in the divorce was incomplete.
I don't know. I haven't seen it.
He testified that at the beginning portion of the video where you set up the camera, that wasn't included in the video that TMZ received.
I don't know what video TMZ
I'm talking
received.
about Mr. Tremaine's testimony, Ms. Heard. Let's just
So you're
focus on
asking me
Mr.
to
Tremaine.
repeat his testimony?
No, I'm asking you if you recall hearing him say those words to this jury.
Yes,
Under oath.
I heard his testimony. We all did.
And he testified that the end of the video where you can be seen smirking. I know you testified earlier that you haven't been smirking in this trial, but you sure were caught on camera smirking in that video.
I disagree with that.
Was also not included in the TMZ video.
Everyone can watch that video and you can determine whether you think it's funny to me or not.
That's because the video came from you, right, Ms. Heard?
No, it did not.
You
That
edited
video
out
did
the
not
portions.
come to me. I
Ms.
mean,
Heard,
come from me.
Ms. Heard, you edited out the portions that made you look bad before sending it to TMZ.
You're very wrong about that.
So that
if I
only
wanted to
Mr.
leak
Depp
information, I
looked
could have
bad.
done it in a more effective way, a lot sooner and a lot more.
Because you
I
knew
was
exactly
living
how to
with
do
a
that,
mountain
right?
of this evidence. If I wanted to leak it, I could have done a lot more with it.
I thought you testified earlier in this trial that you didn't know how to leak things.
I
Remember
don't.
that? Right. You edited that video before you gave it to TMZ so that only Mr. Depp would look bad. Yes?
That's absurd.
Right in the middle of your divorce proceedings.
Again, you're very wrong.
I'd like to show you a picture that's already admitted into evidence. It's Defendant's Exhibit 799. This is you at the courthouse on May 27th, 2016 when you got your domestic restraining order against Mr. Depp, right?
It is.
And next to you is a woman named Jody Gottlieb, right?
Yes, yes.
Jody Gottlieb is your publicist.
And dear friend.
Now I'd like to show you what's been marked as Plaintiff's Exhibit 1316. This is a picture of you and your friend Rocky Pennington, right?
That is correct.
Your Honor, I'd like to move to admit this photograph.
Any objection to 1316?
No, Your Honor.
All right, 1316 in evidence. You can publish to the jury.
This This is a picture of you on May 28th, 2016, right, Ms. Heard?
I don't know when this was taken.
This is the day after you obtained the domestic violence restraining order against Mr. Depp, right?
I have no idea when this image was taken. I did not take it.
There's no bruise on your face in this picture, is there?
Again, I don't know when this was taken, and also I'm outside. I was obviously wearing makeup. I have no idea when this was taken, so I have no idea if I can speak to what bruise you can see or not.
Let's refresh your recollection about when this picture was taken. Can we please pull up Plaintiff's Exhibit 1315, just for the witness? This is an article dated May 30th, 2016, right, Ms. Heard?
That's what it says, yes.
And this article contains the same photograph of you and Ms. Pennington we were just looking at, yes?
Yes, I see that.
And the article is entitled, Amber Heard Smiles as She Puts Arm Around Friend One Day After Getting Restraining Order Against Johnny Depp. Is that what the title says?
I know that's what the title says, yes.
Your Honor, I'm going to move to admit and publish the article with everything but the headline and date and the photo redacted. Let's take a look at picture Plaintiff's Exhibit 1317. This is also a picture of you and Ms. Pennington on May 28th, 2016, isn't it?
I don't know when this photo was taken, but it looks like the same outing as the picture prior.
Your Honor, I'm going to move to admit and publish Plaintiff's Exhibit 1317.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
1317 in evidence, you can publish.
There's no bruise on your face in this picture either, right?
I disagree. If it is taken when you represent it was taken, then obviously there's a bruise on my face. It's covered by makeup, as per usual.
Let's zoom out of that picture for a moment, please. Thanks, Tom. That's Josh Drew in this picture, right?
Yes, that's correct.
And Ms. Pennington?
That is correct.
In there too?
That
Ms.
is correct.
Pennington submitted a sworn statement on your behalf in support of your domestic violence restraining order, didn't she?
I believe she did, yes.
Mr. Drew also submitted a statement in support of your domestic restraining order.
I believe they both did, yes. Mm-hmm.
Ms. Heard, I'd like to show you Defendant's Exhibit 512, which is already in evidence. You've seen this photograph before, right?
I have.
On the second day of your direct testimony, you testified that this was taken in the downstairs of the main apartment on December 15th, 2015. Do you recall that testimony?
Yes, I believe so.
So it's your testimony that Defendant's Exhibit 512 reflects damage to Penthouse 5 that occurred during the December 15th, 2015 incident. Yes?
I'm not quite sure from what incident this is when I see this photo in a vacuum without context.
Let's give you that context. Can we please, thanks, if I could have day 16 trial testimony? And then do you see that your testimony about December 15th, 2015 follows?
Let's see, it's just the first line or two. Yes.
Okay. Now I'd like you to turn to page 4603. Starting at line 12. 4603. Starting at line 12 and going on to page 4604, line 4.
Okay.
And do you see that you testified that Defendant's Exhibit 512, which is on the screen,
Yes,
is a picture of the downstairs of the main apartment?
that's correct.
And the main apartment is Penthouse 5 in the Eastern Columbia building, right?
No, well, depends on what, the main apartment's penthouse 3 generally when we say main apartment.
Penthouse 5 was where you had your closet?
The downstairs was kind of like had some of my painting studio set up and a reception area. Upstairs was the closet. Mezzanine office was in between.
All right, so it's your testimony that Defendant's Exhibit 512 reflects damage to the penthouse, Penthouse 5, that occurred during the December 15th, 2015 incident, right?
I'm just not sure from which incident this is a picture of, since I'm only looking at
Even
a
though your
partial
counsel
floor.
was asking you questions about December 15th, 2015, and then admitted this picture into evidence
Again,
in relation to that incident.
Sorry, go ahead.
In relation to that incident on December 15th, 2015. This exhibit, Defendant's Exhibit, you are the defendant, number 512, was admitted into evidence in this court. You testified that this was the result of damage that occurred on December 15th, 2015. Yes or no?
I just need to orient myself because I'm just looking at a picture of a partial picture of a
Ms. Heard,
floor,
you didn't just
so
look
I
at a
can't.
picture. You looked at your testimony.
pointed me towards the page and then asked me a question. I haven't actually reviewed it. I don't know if this was submitted in relation to that incident.
Let's actually leave up Defendant's 512 and please pull up Defendant's Exhibit 725, which is already in evidence.
Thank you.
In redacted form, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. You can publish.
Just side by side. You've seen this photograph as well, right?
I have.
On the third day of your direct testimony, you testified that this photograph reflected spilled wine in Penthouse 5 on May 21st, 2016, didn't you?
Again, I don't know because I'm looking at a partial picture of a floor, so unless you remove the metadata you've covered up, we could then tell. If you
I didn't cover it up, Your Honor.
Could we unredact
Your Honor
them so we could get context?
No, that's how it's in evidence.
That's how it's in evidence.
Next question.
Well, the metadata next to it is so that
Ms.
to
Hurd,
avoid this
Ms.
sort of
Hurd,
confusion.
there is no question pending, and I would appreciate it if you wouldn't be making argument to the jury.
Sorry, I
It's
thought you had
inappropriate.
asked me about it.
No, I didn't ask you about anything. Let's look at your direct testimony from the third day. Let's turn to page 4750 in day 17 transcript.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
4750, specifically line 16. Do you see where Ms. Bredehoff asked you to describe for the jury what took place on May 21st, 2016?
I see that.
Okay. And do you see that your testimony is reflected about May 21, 2015?
Yes.
That follows? Okay.
Yes.
Now let's turn to page 4804 at line 14. 4804. Starting at line 14
Yes.
through 4805, line 4.
Going to what line?
Line 4 at 4805. Do you see that you're testifying that Defendant's Exhibit 725, which is reflected on the right side, reflects spilled wine on the floor in Penthouse 5?
That's correct.
Okay. And Defendant's Exhibit 512 and 725 seem to be different versions of the same picture, don't they?
That's correct.
Okay. So which is it? Which one was taken on December 15th, 2015, or May 21st, 2016?
If you remove the redacted metadata, you can find out. It's right there.
Or if you're telling the truth, you would know.
Recognize a portion of spilled wine on a floor, and I'm supposed to know off the top of my head when you've
No.
lived through 5 years of this stuff? I don't think so. That's not how that works.
Okay. Thank you, Tom. Ms. Hurd, at the beginning of your cross-examination
Your
last
Honor, may
week...
we approach?
Yes. All right, ladies and gentlemen in the gallery, I would ask that there be no words or no phrases, no words, no sounds at all coming from you. If I hear one more sound, I will clear the gallery and we will continue this testimony without anybody in the courtroom. Understood? Good. All right, your next question.
Ms. Hurd, at the beginning of your cross-examination last week, I showed you an audio where you told Mr. Depp to tell the jury, tell the judge, tell the world that he is a victim of domestic abuse. Do you remember that?
That's correct.
And you testified you found it hard to believe that Mr. Depp would tell the world that he's a victim of domestic abuse, didn't you?
I said I find it hard to believe that he would do that knowing that he himself had beat me up for 5 years.
But he has told the world that he's your victim of domestic abuse, hasn't he?
Well, he started to say that only recently. He didn't make that claim up until very recently. So when we signed our divorce agreement and we signed a statement saying that neither party had ever said false claims for financial gain, it was relevant and important to me because I was the only one making the accusations. I was the only one making those claims. He wasn't doing that at the time, and he signed his name to it.
You didn't expect as many people to show up and testify on his behalf that did you?
Incorrect.
When you told this jury under oath that you never assaulted, actually, strike that, sorry, Your Honor. When you told this jury under oath that you punched Mr. Depp because you thought of Mr. Depp pushing Kate Moss down the stairs, you didn't expect Ms. Moss to agree to testify that never happened, did you?
Incorrect. I know how many people will come out of the woodwork to be in support of Johnny.
So
It
you
is
think
clear
Ms.
by this
Moss
courtroom
needs
how
to
many
come
people
out
will
of the
do that.
woodwork to testify for Mr. Depp?
Everybody who was around in the 90s and the early aughts knew that rumor. I had heard that rumor from multiple people. Of course, that's what flashed through my head when my violent husband not only swung for me, but all of a sudden swung for my sister. Of course I thought of that. I did not expect her to show up or not expect her to show up. It didn't matter. It doesn't change what I believed at the time when we were on the stairs and I thought he was going to kill my sister by pushing her down the stairs.
You told this jury under oath that Mr. Depp was aggressive and trashed a trailer in Hicksville. You didn't expect the manager of the Hicksville property, Morgan Knight, to come forward and testify that that was untrue, did you?
Incorrect. I've already been through trials with this man. I know how many people will come out in support of him.
When you told this jury under oath that you had no idea that the paparazzi would be at the courthouse on May 27th, 2016, you didn't expect a TMZ employee to show up to testify that TMZ had been alerted that you would be at the courthouse and knew exactly which side of your face to take a picture of, did you?
I know how many people will come out and say whatever for him. That's his power. That's why I wrote the op-ed. I was speaking to that phenomenon. How many people will come out in support of him and will fall to his power? He is a very powerful man, and people love currying favor with powerful men.
Currying
and I know
favor
that
and
firsthand. I've
risking
lived
jail
it.
time for committing perjury?
Excuse me? I didn't hear your question.
You didn't hear
Excuse
my
me?
question?
Ms. Vasquez, if you do mind, please just repeat the question. I didn't hear you.
Curry favor and commit perjury in this courtroom?
I have
For
seen
a
people
powerful
do this.
man?
I have seen people do this time and time again. That's why I wrote the op-ed.
You didn't expect Ben King, the house manager in Australia, to show up from England. He flew from England to testify that Mr. Depp's fingertip was found exactly where he said it would be. Did you?
I have never heard Johnny testify to knowing where his finger was, or really, frankly, making a claim that he knew where it was when it was found. I've never heard Johnny claim that.
You didn't expect Keenan Wyatt.
Johnny has never
Ms.
actually
Heard,
said that.
Ms. Heard.
And
I think the
Ben
jury
King,
can.
yes.
Ms. Heard, there's no question pending. You didn't expect Keenan Wyatt, Mr. Depp's longtime sound technician, to show up and testify that Mr. Depp is not being fed lines through his earpieces, but instead music, did you?
Not that it matters much, but of course I did. I know how his employees treat him.
So you
I know how
probably-
his team treats him. Of course I expected that.
Okay, so you probably expected Isaac Baruch to come and testify for Mr. Depp, right?
I'm not sure I thought about that.
Yeah. But you didn't expect Mr. Baruch to weep for Mr. Depp after what you've put him through and so many others with your lies.
I
did you?
relate to Isaac because he and I are
There's
the
no
only
further
ones who
questions, Your
cried
Honor.
on this stand.
Nothing further.
All right.
Come cross-examination, guys. She was cross-examined again by Camille Vasquez. Oh my god, this was the last bit to get Amber wherever Camille wanted Amber to be at. And, oh my god, you guys, she completely, absolutely nailed it. She nailed it. She made, yet again, Amber say that the op-ed was about Johnny. Not only was the op-ed about Johnny, but I think that Camille and Johnny's side managed to prove that the op-ed was written by Amber Heard with malice. This malice needs to be proven for the defamation to stand, right? So I think that potentially here they kind of got their case sorted, Johnny Depp's side, because now in Amber's own words the op-ed was written with malice, and that's what Camille Vasquez was trying to get at. I think that Camille Vasquez knew exactly how to get to Amber, so she opens and so she gets frustrated and so she gets angry and she can't really control her emotions. I think that's the style that they were going for. That's why the questions were sharp. That's why Amber Heard was not allowed to go into the theatrics and into all those descriptions and such, and they really accomplished that. And I was like, oh my god, look what Camille just made Amber say. So she did, obviously that Amber didn't really say that she wrote it with malice, but it was just the fact that Camille got Amber Heard to talk about how, you know, everything affected her and how her life is not the same, and how and then Amber, she started talking about Johnny and about him being a really big star and people, you know, sticking up to him, and Johnny telling her that he will ruin her reputation. And so of course that's why she wrote the op-ed, because she knew that people will side with Johnny and she knew that she won't be believed. And this ended the day in court. I mean, it didn't really end the day in court because they were talking about jury instructions and, you know, arranging all these kind of things. But as far as cases go, Amber Heard already rested her case. Now yesterday Johnny Depp as well rested his case. Today we are having closing arguments, which I believe that it's 2 hours for each side, 2 or 3 hours, and then everything is given to the jury, and then jury will deliberate. They have up until Tuesday, as far as I know, to reach a verdict, and that's it. It's been really tiring a couple of weeks, but it's also been fascinating at the same time, because I don't think that we will ever get an opportunity quite like this to see the insides of court and of trials and of how they work, the whole process. Because even if we do have some insight in different trials and so on, we don't have a full coverage like this one. So I think that this was a chance in a lifetime, if I'm honest with you. I don't think that we will ever get to see and witness this kind of thing again. So yeah, it made me learn a lot of things. It made me think about what I can do in terms of bringing awareness to male victims of DV, because up until this case was on, I didn't really look too much into it, and I didn't really pay attention to the stigma around it and everything. I knew that there is stigma around it, and I knew that it's very hard for male victims of DV to come forward precisely because of the stigma around this. However, I didn't really take an interest particularly in it. And being a victim of DV myself, I think it's really important to bring awareness to all the victims of DV, to bring awareness that we shouldn't stigmatize the victims of DV, and we shouldn't see a victim of DV based on gender. And I think that is the biggest thing that I took out of this trial. If nothing else, this is the biggest thing that I took out of this trial. Me personally, I am a female. I am a victim of DV in 2 previous long-term relationships, and I never came forward with anything, and I never once reported this to the police, because I'm not sure if it's just my country or it was just the time. But if I would go to the police to say this, to say what happened to me, they would never take me seriously, because I was married. So yeah, it kind of just goes to show. However, male victims of DV have it 10 times harder, because not only they have to deal with the fact that maybe they can't believe, maybe they won't be believed, but they also have to deal with the fact that male victims of DV are not usually seen as being able to be male victims of DV, if it makes any sense. So yeah, this is kind of what I got from this, and this kind of makes me try to bring more awareness to male victims of DV, because I just find it 100% unfair to them. It's unfair to anyone to be a victim. It's heartbreaking for anyone to be a victim. It's even more heartbreaking when you are not believed. It's even more heartbreaking when you are not believed because of your gender. So anyway, with this, guys, I'm going to end today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you are new here and you haven't been on this channel before, please consider subscribing by hitting the subscribe button. Also, turn your notification bells on so you are notified about any new videos I upload. And please consider hitting the like button. Is really helpful towards the channel, and it really shows your support for the channel, and also it helps me in trying to get my channel out there on the YouTube platform. And also I do have a Patreon. If you are interested, the link will be on your screen and also in the description down below under this video. We talk about over there, we talk about anything 18 plus, really, mostly things we can't talk about on YouTube for obvious reasons. And there will also be behind the scene photos or videos or whatever else I can come up with. And I will also give shout outs to the members in every single one of my videos. And there will also be crime scene photos over there. So if you are interested, again, the link is on your screens and in the description down below. I also have a playlist where I covered the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial so far. Again, the link for that will be in the description down below. For now, thank you so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!